Welcome to Frickety Frack, We Do Talk Back. Thank you for joining me this episode. My name is Patrick, and I'm Frack. Frickety Frack, We Do Talk Back is a show where I discuss different aspects of fandom and how they relate to the gospel. And so I'm going to be going through an episode of Bleach, the 1,000 Year Blood War, and connect it to teachings from the Bible. And I'm continuing studying 1,000 Year Blood War until the conclusion of this series/season. And then when this season goes on hiatus, I'll go in a different direction. And it could be anything ranging from another anime, comic books, movies, Star Wars, whatever you can be a fan of, I can talk about it. And so the name of the show comes from my dad, who dubbed my brother and me Frick and Frack since we were kids. So I know last episode I mentioned that I might go in a different direction because I thought this was the last episode of the season. It turns out I was wrong. I misunderstood something. I don't know. But anywho, so we're going to be staying with Bleach for a little while longer, but I'm really excited about it. And so we'll be moving on to the next episode after this one. So the name of this episode is The Headless Star. And so the main focus of this episode is Ichigo arriving in the Soul Society after his training with Squad Zero. And so the episode begins with Kenpachi realizing that he had been more damaged in his battle with Gremmy than he thought, and that the Bambis who arrive after the fight with Gremmy come to take him out. And so he fights them off for a little bit, but that's when Ichigo arrives and he keeps him from being killed. And so just as a reminder, there are 5 special war powers that have been labeled by Yaoba, and this is the reminder that Kenpachi and Ichigo are both special war powers. And once all 5 of them have been announced, we'll probably take the time to go over those 5 special war powers and see what that is, kind of what all that entails. So as he arrives, this is very similar to a lot of other shonen animes. This reminds me of a lot of the times when Goku arrives, because he, at least especially in the first 2 story arcs of Dragon Ball Z, the arrival of the Saiyans, and then Goku's arrival on Namek. He just kind of blows in and has an easy time with all of the bad guys that are taking care of everyone else. And so he does the same thing where he's very easily handling the Bambis and just, fighting them off. And they're using their special abilities and, doing their, the Volsandish and, trying to get him. And they're all fighting to be the ones to kill Ichigo. But Ichigo, fights them off. All very non-lethal actions for the most part. And so even in the fight, they're not slouches. The Bambis aren't slouches. And we do get to see at first Ichigo using the new version of Getsuga Tensho. And then seeing what it's like now that he has both those swords. And so here's one of the really cool things when we first see Ichigo use Getsuga Tensho. It's with his smaller blade. For those who haven't seen yet or don't remember from the end of season 1 of 1,000 Year Blood War, Ichigo's Zanpakuto are 2 swords. He in fact has 2 blades, and so he uses Getsuga Tensho with the smaller one. But then so now for the very first time, I'm probably going to say this wrong, we get to see him Getsuga Jujisho. Jujisho. I do apologize. Like I said, not very good at this stuff. And see that double cross attack. And he does it only to counter one of the Bambi's attacks. And the fact that she then doesn't try to get out of the way, you can clearly see that Ichigo says is like, get out of the way, dodge it. And you see her afterwards that she has lost an arm. So she must have dodged at least a little bit, probably not as quickly as she should have. but what you gonna do? And so and so it's just showing that even at this base level of ability, that he's outclassing many of the Stern Riders and multiple at the same time. And so then, because of, once again, Ichigo is a special war power, other Stern Ridders appear to fight Ichigo, where he's in fact surrounded at this point by 8 Stern Ridders. And so he sees Yawaba kind of do this, giant fount of reishi, and he goes to deal with Yawaba, but the Stern Ridders aren't happy about that. They're like, hey, don't ignore us. And so then they get blocked from going after Ichigo by Renji, Rukia, Byakuya, Ikaku, Yumachika, and Hisagi, all showing up to fight these Stern Ridders. And so this is leading into what's going to be another, great episode. We're going to see a lot more battles. It's going to be awesome. And so then when Ichigo finally gets to Yawaba, he notices that Uryu is there. And Uryu attacks Ichigo. And he's very surprised by all this because, Ichigo views Uryu as a friend. And this attack is kind of a big, betrayal to him. He doesn't understand. And so as Uryu has launched several arrows, Quincy arrows at Ichigo, Chad and Orihime have arrived, and they help defend Ichigo from Uryu. You can most likely, they have grown in power as well. We'll see what level of power that they're at in their new uniform, after this time of training. Well, I'm sure we'll see them in combat a little bit more, in the following episodes. And then with that, Yawaba, Hashwad, and Uryu leave and head to the Soul King. That's what we have determined. What the Soul Society has figured out was that the idea behind this entire plot was for Yawaba to get to the Soul King. And so we'll know more about that as episodes reveal their plans. And so obviously this is a big upheaval for everyone, and everyone's shocked. And so it was very fun. It was fun I always love when the main protagonist arrives after training and their increased ability helps them in this new way. I always really enjoy that in episodes. So, let's talk about the biblical theme. So the biblical theme is Psalm 91, verse 14 through 15. It says, because he holds fast to me in love, I will deliver him. I will protect him because he knows my name. When he calls to me, I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will rescue him and honor him. So the very beginning of this episode, what Ichigo, the first thing that he does when he arrives is go save Kenpachi. And Kenpachi and Ichigo have had an ongoing rivalry, combat, friendship, whatever you might want to call it, since the Soul Society arc. And one of the things that we've discussed many a times is that Kenpachi lives for battle and cutting everything in his way. And because of Ichigo's early fight with Kenpachi in the Soul Society arc, that paved the way for Ichigo to learn Bankai, among many other things. And because of that, Kenpachi respects Ichigo because he gave him such a wonderful battle. And remember that Kenpachi and Ichigo have had, they have this relationship, and Kenpachi was the one who saved Ichigo from Noitora, the Espada number 5. And so I like this verse. I like Psalm 91, 14 through 15, because one of the things we understand about Ichigo is that he really does care about saving lives, and he knows Kenpachi by name, and Kenpachi knows Ichigo's name, where, Kenpachi probably barely knows anyone's names except for if they truly help him enjoy his love of battle. And so they know each other's names, and they view each other as like I said, combat friends. Because I wouldn't necessarily say they'd be friends, because Ichigo would probably be frightened to actually invite Kibachi over for dinner or something like that. That would just be crazy. But this psalm, it's referring to how, God knows each of our names as well and is with us. And so I want to encourage everyone who hears this to know that God is with you and that God knows your name and you will be delivered by God. Now, there are those who are facing hardships. We've had, just a hurricane here at the time of this recording just a week ago. And that can be devastating for people. It can be a struggle. And so, and then there's been natural disasters all over the place, and there's war, and there's combat, there's violence all over. And so one of the things that God promises us, tells us, is that he is going to be there for each one of us because he knows us by name, and we will be delivered by that violence. Now, does that mean that we will be bulletproof or hurricane proof or anything like that? No, because what that means is that when we are with God, that our earthly bodies may be killed or fail, but we will in fact be with God, because bullets, storms, illness, none of that can take away the salvation that we have in God. And so we will always be with God when we are his children, and he knows us by name. So I want to encourage you, know God, know Jesus Christ, know him by name, and he knows yours. He's waiting for you to say, yes, you are Abba, you are my Father. So I want to encourage you to take that time today. All right, so let's rate this episode. This episode is great. And I'm going to have to not make it be a 5. I'm going to give it a 4.5. And there's a reason for it. So as you know, I'm a pastor. I am pastor of Richlands Methodist Church. And one of the things that I've liked about Bleach 1,000-Year Blood War is that they kind of dialed back some of the fan service and things. This episode was a little high on it. There were some, not for me. I didn't really appreciate that, and I also don't like Orihime's new uniform. It was, don't like it. Anyways, so I'm gonna have to give it a 4.5 just because of the different fan service moments. It's not really necessary. Like the action and the the big thing is action. This show is full of action. It's great. So we don't really need that, in my opinion. So that's why I can't make it perfect. So I'm going to give this a 4.5. So it's almost perfect. But if they dial down the fan service stuff, it would be even better. So anyone with questions for me about the biblical lesson that I talked about in this episode, or any other discussion ranging from anime, comics, or anything in general, feel free to email me at frickityfracktalkback@gmail.com, or reach out to me on Twitter at frickityf, or at frickityfrack on Instagram and Facebook. So please rate, review, and subscribe. Leave a comment in the comment section below on the YouTube video, and I do a really good job of getting a response in a timely manner. And so remember that I love you. Most importantly, God loves you. And go release your Bankai.